Welcome to the P list. Welcome to the P list. Welcome to the P list. Yo, 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 yo! It's Sunday. I almost never record a thing on Sunday, but you know what? I feel like doing it. I know I've been getting out a lot of videos lately. A lot of people sending in requests for stuff too. A lot of the stuff that people send me that they want me to do a reaction to initially. It's much better if I respond to them in person. It's hard to explain, but I will try to get to all the matches that get sent to me for review and that kind of thing. Now, what is this P list about? 10 things that everybody should be doing at their wrestling show that they probably are not. Interesting, right? I've got tons of shit to unbox. I'll just be real. I got this one today, and even though I have like a backlog of stuff, there's something about this package that is very intriguing to me. My kid was worried, and she said, I hope it is not booby-trapped or messed with or in other ways not good. I've had two that were like that so far. One of which you kind of know about, and one of which you probably have never heard about. And I'll tell that story at some point. Whole lot of packaging going on. Right, so that's that. So just sometimes, as a joke, me and a former girlfriend, at Christmas time, we would just wrap these incredibly elaborate packages that had no gift inside. This could be one of those. There ain't nothing in this shit. Oh, no, there is. What the fuck is this? The packaging itself is kind of awesome. I'll probably reuse it for something. No note in there. What are these? Sorry, I usually don't go that deep into it, but I am intrigued, so I'll bother taking these out of my... Pull. It says to pull. Let's see that. Pull. Let's pull them. Boop. Boop. Take out the little tabs. Well, that was exciting. Are they fucking chopsticks or something? Oh, because I ate noodles on camera a few times. You got a button. Oh, it didn't stay lit. There it goes. Are these fucking glowing? Shut the lights off on this shit. Oh man, I promised a couple people I would try not to eat noodles on camera again, but I might have to with these bitches. Oh, dope as fuck. Dude, I'm fired up. That's an awesome gift. And now I know lately I have been receiving more non-t-shirts than t-shirts. But rest assured, my kid wanted me to assure all of you that I love t-shirts. Fucking love them. Can't wear enough of them. And in fact, I just bought a shit ton more fucking hangers today to accommodate all the t-shirts that I would love to keep coming in. Cool? All right. Let's get to this P list. Top 10 things that you're probably not doing in your wrestling show that you need to. Number 10, I have these smaller cards. These are my travel emergency ones since I did this P list when I was elsewhere. So when I do them on the smaller cards, I just have to hold them up to the camera closer. Number 10, treat the main differently than everything else. Here's the things that we used to do at PCW to treat the main event as its own special thing. And when I've been responsible for other shows and other locations, things that I did that, looking back, I probably should have done at PCW. For example, sometimes when I book or ran other shows, we would, before the main event, we would drop the lights, and the announcer, who is usually me, would go. Let me just do it for example. It is time for your main event of the evening! And then the lights would come up. Woo, that would hype a crowd up instantly. You could feel their energy. You could feel them reset and get ready. And we wouldn't announce the main event until both. Then we'd hit music. If it was a championship match, challenger would come to the ring. Music, champion would make his or her entrance. Then once they were in the ring and on either side, this is your main event. One fall with a 60-minute time limit, and it is for the Platinum Championship Wrestling Heavyweight title. And then you would introduce each person. That's a couple of ways that you can treat the main event differently. Other ways in a meta way that you can. Is someone in your main event going to get color? Then nobody should get color in any of the other matches. That's an example of how you would save things for the main event. If the main event is going to have somebody fighting outside of the ring, then you probably don't want to do that earlier. Or maybe you've set up precedents throughout the night that now the main event is going to upend. Maybe you won't do falsies and any of the other things earlier. Maybe moves don't even get countered that you can then have countered in the main event. Example. And this is going to sound really picky. But you know what I hate? I just pet peeve of mine when people whip each other in the ropes and then just drop their head for no reason when we've never seen a back body drop. In the other matches, I was way more picky when I booked in other places. When I wasn't in charge, but I was the booker. Not for PCW, which was my thing, right? And I would tell them, like, no, I want somebody to hit a backdrop somewhere in this match. I want nobody to like duck a clothesline. I want nobody to counter anybody's finisher. That way, in the main event, they could feel free to drop their head and take the kick without doing a back body drop, because we've seen it earlier in the evening. The whole entire show was there to set up the main event. So number 10, treat the main event differently than anything else. I would tell referees, for example, don't really react emotionally to anything that happens throughout the night except in the main event. Then you can play facial expressions to a larger extent. Everything can be bigger in the main event. What are the two jobs of the main event? Create the hype and live up to the hype. And the whole show is geared towards doing that. And you treat that main event differently than everywhere else, you're already halfway there. And living on a prayer. Number 9. People who are in charge, check in with your locker room leader and your agents. But I don't really have agents. That's a problem, fool. I don't really have a locker room leader. Then fucking get one. Yep. But more than that, check in with them. Or your veterans, your real veterans, who are going to help out with that show and that the young guys look to for inspiration and guidance. Check in with them. Get everybody on the same page. Even if there's something that happening in the show that you don't want the boys to know about, by and large, it really helps a lot if there are trusted people that do know, because then they can help facilitate things. Yeah. Check in with your locker room leader and agents. Get everybody on the same page. Who's going to help out with whom? Who maybe noticed something about somebody next, even if they're not working with them directly at this show. I noticed, though, that so-and-so, he was kind of resistant to jobbing. So that's something we just want to be aware of. Okay, cool. Number 8. Of things that you should be doing at your show. We had the tradition of the game ball. I would usually highlight one person who I thought did a particularly great job. If there was somebody making their debut, if there was somebody who was going to get crushed for me in the locker room, who's basically doing the job hard for somebody to help elevate somebody, I would highlight their sacrifice or their effort. If there's somebody who cut a particularly great promo, if there's somebody who I noticed did like a little thing on the side that they thought nobody would notice, I made sure to highlight that. And I would have them sign a jacket. Um, I would have them sign things, sign PCW shirts, and then we would keep that thing on display. And it became a point of pride. How many times has your name been on that shirt? Yeah. And when you were running shows constantly, as I did, shirts would fill up pretty fast, and you could spread recognition and individualized recognition around. See, when people put out these, when promoters and stuff put out these blanket, like, oh, I want to thank the people who help with the show and all the crew and all the boys and it really doesn't mean as much as when you just highlight one person. So I'm a big believer in the tradition of the game ball, that kind of mentality for wrestling shows. Oh, shit, I almost hit myself in the face. Number 7, acknowledge your history and establish your history and traditions. Right? AEW is doing a good job at this. This is the first cage match in AEW history, right? Tacoma has never lost a Kumite match here in Platinum Championship Wrestling. There was a time where Vandal had a hard time picking a win in PCW, but ever since he was our first Platinum Classic winner, he has proved himself to be a very dangerous opponent that has never sought the affection of the audience. You can't assume people have been there time and time again. Plus, the more you reestablish your history and traditions, the more new people feel a part of your crowd, and the more old people who have come to your shows before will reinforce those traditions even further and feel more connected to your product. Okay. Establish that history, talk about your history, know your performers, know who's done what before, and if you're not sure, fucking ask them. Acknowledge your history and establish your history and traditions. That's something ring announcers can do as well. You can just drop little tidbits in, right? Um, you know, if they win a Georgia Wrestling History Award, why not fucking say it? Number 6. Check the fans that are ruining other people's good fucking time. That dickhead who's in the audience that always has to say the cleverest shit, but it's gotten to the point where they need to say shit all the time and they're ruining the experience of people around them. I was legend for this. Of picking out a fan that was just wouldn't shut the fuck up, and I would just walk up to them and just go, "Shut the fuck up! You're fucking ruining everybody's good time." And if they didn't like it, I'd fucking throw them out, give them their fucking money back. I wouldn't give them their money back, but I'd throw them the fuck out. One person wrecking shit for 10 people or more, not worth it, folks. How many audiences in Georgia allowed a small group of people or even one loudmouth fan to fucking ruin their shit? It didn't get better when their behavior got reinforced and accepted. Then they just did it more and more and more, and other people followed suit. Fuck that shit. All for fans being boisterous, all for people who live in clever land once in a while, but you know what the fuck I'm talking about. Fans that ruin the experience for other fans aren't true fans at all. They're wannabe performers, and fuck them. There's plenty of shit shows that they can go to and probably get on without any training. Number 5 of things you should be doing at your show that you're probably not. Solve a problem before being a problem. This applies more to wrestlers than anybody else. Yeah, you want to get the ear of the booker and the promoter, the people in charge, and tell them your great idea, which usually ends in, and then I win the title. But have you ever thought about solving a problem before being one? Before being an inconvenience or a burden or pushing your idea right before the show and nobody's gonna fucking be able to listen to it anyway because we're trying to get a show going, maybe you can help solve a problem. Maybe you could see someone who's like morale is maybe not the highest and just go like, hey man, what's going on? And just have a conversation with them and try to bring them back into the fold. Maybe you see somebody who's being isolated by the other wrestlers in the locker room, maybe undeservedly. Maybe you can help fix a problem instead of fucking becoming one. How much of a better place would that be? The tightest, closest knit locker rooms are full of people who are looking out for one another more than they're looking out for themselves above the show. That's where you want to be. Number 4 of 10 things you should be doing at your wrestling show. This is more for people who are in charge. Be approachable and be obvious when you're not approachable. Communication, right? I saw a thing about Paul Heyman once when he was at ECW that he would put his fucking table right in the middle of the locker room. That was an open signal to the boys that I'm here to listen to you and we're working together to do this fucking thing. Was it political? Of course it was. That's what Paulie does. However, it doesn't mean it was a bad idea, and I took that fucking and I ran with it. And at Academy Theater, I would put my table and where I would sit right in the thing. When we're in Porterdale, I would set up shop and the boys knew which chair I was going to fucking take, and I would sit there and interact with all of them. And I would be there first and I would walk around and introduce myself to everybody and fucking make everybody more comfortable. However, when I was fucking talking business, it was pretty obvious. If you saw my back and you saw me talking great seriousness to somebody, leave me the fuck alone, and everybody knew it. Made for a much better atmosphere than a lot of locker rooms have today. Number 4 is be approachable and be obvious when you are not approachable. Number 3 of the 10 things you should be doing at your shows, acknowledge match of the night in the locker room afterwards. And this debate where promoters bitch and moan and whine, and guys from Rudy on down and everybody, oh, you should be promoting my show. You should be promoting the show. If you don't promote my show, I'm not going to book you again. I hear about everybody from fucking Alex Red in fucking Florida whines about this shit. And I won't book guys that won't fucking share the flyer. And Rudy bitches about this all the time. And I see different people in Georgia bitching about this all the time. Fuck you. All right? Anybody who's worked with anybody knows you get way farther with positive reinforcement rather than whining and attempted negative reinforcement. Again, fear of punishment is the lowest tier of the Kohlberg morality pyramid. We're trying to move things up and get to the level of principle where people do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Yeah? And reinforcing positive behavior. Yeah, Alan Angels, that fucking promo you cut, it was fucking great, man. Thank you. Appreciate it so much. Really set things off. Hey, Hold My Beer Hansen, Proctor Croc. Guys putting up those promos. I fucking love it. Thank you. It really gave a great atmosphere, and I believe more of the crowd could get into your match because they knew what was going on. Guys, feel free to do that kind of thing. I love it. All of you guys who helped spread posters out, and I want to tell you who they are. They're blank and blank and blank and blank. Fucking make this thing look great. Porterdale, I saw posters everywhere. You guys did a great job. Acknowledge match of the night. I would always do that. What do we think match of the night was, guys? Which one do you think was the best? And then the wrestlers, instead of promoting themselves, would talk about each other. I thought I had a pretty good match, but I got to give it up to fucking Pandora and Aisha. They were out there fucking killing it. We did that in PCW every time. I would highlight somebody who I thought did the absolute best job of the night or was worthy of noting, and then I would do match of the night. And anybody who helped promote the show in some way, shape, or form, or talked it up, or even if I saw like, holy fuck, that like your whole fucking family showed up for you tonight, man. It's awesome. I fucking appreciate that. I'm glad you guys are proud of having your friends and family here. The rest of you, fucking please invite them, man. That's number 3. Number 2, 10 things you should be doing in your show, but probably not. Mark the time. This was almost number 1. I debated. Take pictures with each other. I wish I had more of my shit throughout my career, including at PCW. Luckily at PCW, we usually had at least one cameraman and two of guys just snapping pictures. I got fucking thousands and it's awesome. I wish I had more. I wish I took more backstage. I wish I had more pictures. I was recently scrolling through trying to find a picture of me and Jeff G, which wasn't one of the typical ones, and I found the one of him in the fucking Hannibal Lecter get up and me fucking staring at him. Great. And it made me scroll through, and I found a few pictures, but it was usually because the wrestlers themselves, especially the women of PCW, would, especially if we were doing an outside event, like we were going to an art show or something like that. I did all kinds of shit with the wrestlers and hung out in all kinds of ways. They would insist on pictures, and it was always fucking awesome. And I wish I had more. And for fear of marking out, I didn't take pictures with a lot of the prominent people that I worked with in the wrestling business, and I fucking wish I did. There is a line, however, which a lot of people, including Caleb Kitchen, doesn't seem to fucking understand. There is marking out, and then there is being in the business and being a peer. But I do wish I had pictures with my peers. I do not regret, however, not taking fucking mark out pictures. That shit's fucking lame. But I'm telling you, do it now. You got a cameraman taking pictures of the fucking show? Have them come backstage and snap some fucking notable pictures of people together. You'll be glad to have them. Mark the time. Take pics with each other. And the number one thing that you should be doing at your show that people are not doing right now, but can. Fix one thing every show. Don't get caught in a position where you're trying to fucking reinvent the wheel and do a million things and just obsessing about the things that are not quite right yet. Fix one thing every show. Whenever we had a bad show at PCW, what I would do is I would go, all right, what are all the things that went wrong? And what's the one thing I could change starting in 3 days when we have our next show or next week when we have our next show? And then we just won't go back. And guess what happened? We went longer and longer stretches without having a bad show. Fix one thing every show. Yeah, last time I felt like the commentators were kind of stepping on each other. Can you guys really have a communication, talk to each other about how we can prevent that from happening next time? Great. And then next show. The ring announcer, I feel like you're like kind of too jokey, that you need to find times to joke. And then there's times, especially around the main event, I don't want a lot of joking. And I certainly don't want you doing anything that downplays any of the wrestlers, okay? Great. Cool. Fix one thing each show. And guess what? After a year, for most of you, that's 12 things that you can fix. If you're viral, it's 8. If you're other promotions, it's around 20 to 24. If you're a PCW, there was a time where you could fix 120 things a year. Maybe that's why we got fucking good. Who knows? Anyway, this has been Plist number 20. How awesome is that, by the way? 10 things you should be doing at your wrestling show that you probably aren't, but guess what? Now you can. Hell, you could take number 1, fix one thing every show, and you can start working all 10 of those things in. And for most of you, that would mean by the end of the year, you'll be able to incorporate all 10. Let's see what I did there. See you tomorrow for full disclosure. Have a good week, motherfuckers.